One of the biggest differences that we start to see is related to in e-commerce and hospitality is related to the meeting and events sector. In the meeting and events industry, while there are similarities between food service and lodging in the sense that e-commerce is used to convey information B to B to C to the consumer about venues and about historical uses of event space or venue space, there really isn't necessarily a booking component to it. Traditionally, when we think about the meeting and event industry, the booking process is still reminiscent of what we saw in the brick and mortar times, that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to book wedding space online like you would a hotel room. While some people may choose to do that on a very, very limited scale, the majority of the meeting and event industry still does not make the commerce, the transaction occur on the internet platform. So really, when we talk about the meeting and event industry, it does closely mirror the lodging sector in the sense that it's designed to convey product knowledge, but the main difference is that it's designed to attract the host to book face-to-face through the particular venue. Recreation and entertainment, recreation being golf, things like that, entertainment being concerts, recreation could also be sporting events, things like that. We do see e-commerce there, but again, we don't necessarily seek a booking transaction from the website. Places like Disneyland, for example, while you might be able to do it, many people at Disneyland still make that transaction face-to-face. A lot of times when we talk about sporting events also, people will go to third-party sites, intermediaries, just like we saw with the lodging industry. Yes, there are exceptions. For example, Ticketmaster is a great exception to this. But again, with Ticketmaster is almost like an intermediary. Ticketmaster doesn't necessarily own and operate an entertainment venue or an entertainment act. They are merely the intermediary that the consumer uses to interact with the business. So again, lodging is the dominant place where we see both product placement, kind of conveying the brand and booking. Food service, we kind of see that a little bit as well. The booking in this case is a reservation. In the meeting and event industry, we use e-commerce platforms to convey information about a venue, about event space, about a convention facility, a conference center, but that booking function is traditionally face-to-face. The transportation industries like airlines and cruises are almost the opposite of the lodging sector, where there isn't a lot of information about the brand. Yes, some information does exist from a marketing perspective, but really what they're striving for is ease and simplification of the booking process. When we talk about e-commerce components, when we think about the system of e-commerce, we traditionally have a front end and a back end. And just think of it like a restaurant. We have a front of the house and we have a back of the house. The same thing holds true in e-commerce. The front end really is where the end user, in this case, the customer or the other business, where the client is actually accessing information, whether it's customers, employees, business affiliates. The back end is really the sender of the information, the developer, the business, the employer, if you will. And both sides include hardware and software and telecommunication interfaces. But when we talk about the system design for e-commerce, there is definitely a front end and a back end. Here's a graphical representation of that. On the left-hand corner, I don't know if you can see it here with my mouse, you have the clients accessing via the internet, okay, to the network of the business, okay? And in between, what creates a buffer between those two entities is really the mechanism for security. Because the assumption is that the back end, all this stuff here, this is private. There's all sorts of proprietary information on this. This is where we keep all of our customer information. This is where all of our payroll information is. And we don't want the front end user, the customer, to be able to see that. So what we create is something called a firewall. And a firewall is really, it's a filter, if you will, that all network traffic in e-commerce must go through. And what we can do is we can limit through the firewall what people can have access to and what people can't have access to. And all this is created using a very unique type of language. It's called hypertext markup language. You probably haven't heard it called that, but what you've probably heard it called is HTML. Now, what HTML is a type of code that we use to create web pages, display text, display a certain font, display a certain color font, certain types of graphics, all the formatting, whether something is centered, whether it has a picture on it, whether it has flash, whether there's videos, whatever it might be. The language in which we create those e-commerce platforms that the front end and the back end users use is called HTML. In terms of what we look for in really great e-commerce platforms, there's a lot of different variables that exist. And as from 1990 up to 2000 and now in the early part of 2015, we've seen e-commerce platforms really begin to evolve. Regardless of the segment, we have seen an evolution. And today, when you as a manager or you as a leader in an organization are trying to critique or conduct an analysis of how effective your e-commerce platform is or what your e-commerce platform might look like, these are some of the things that you might want to consider, because this is what the end user expects: security and access control. You as the back end user want to have this, but also customers need to feel very confident and secure in their e-commerce transactions. Whatever you do on the back end, you have lots of information at your disposal, and you want to be able to very quickly search through your e-commerce platform and pull information out, pull room inventory information out, pull pricing information out. You want to be able to manage your content effectively and quickly and efficiently. So in that HTML language, you want to be able to make changes if they happen to occur. Let's say you've rebranded, or let's say you have some new photos of a hotel room or a new type of suite that you're bringing online. You want to be able to update that e-commerce platform and its content very, very quickly. You want to have the ability to catalog information. For example, an airline might catalog all the flights that they have on the 5th of February from Chicago to every single destination they have. So we catalog information for the front end user. Pricing information, so if I go in and I choose X hotel room or X flight from this origin to this destination, what is the price associated with that? Once I've made the decision, we saw plenty of examples of the fact that e-commerce platforms today in hospitality really encourage, there's a call to action, and that call to action is booking. And in many cases, that booking has a payment associated with it. So we want to make sure that we have a secure system to be able to handle that. Workflow management, we want to be able to very quickly say that when a customer logs into a particular website and they make a reservation, there should be things that happen, that we get a confirmation number, that the guest is going to get an email sent to them, that we have a workflow. For example, if I decide that I want to book a hotel or an airline reservation, the next step after choosing the flight and the day that I want is I enter in all my personal information. Then the workflow has me choose a seat. Then the workflow has me maybe reserve a hotel or a rent-a-car. Then the workflow has me actually say, how do I want the confirmation sent to me? Email, hard copy, and do I want anybody else to receive this confirmation? And then finally, at the very end, we conclude the process and they give me a confirmation. That's workflow. And really, really good e-commerce systems have a seamless workflow associated with them. And then finally, event notification. Anytime something new comes up, you want to be able to convey that to the customer, maybe a special, maybe something that's unique. But you as the back-end user want to also put event notifications in place. For example, if all of a sudden, 6 months from now on a Friday night, all of your hotel rooms are being sold out within about 30 minutes, that means something unique is going on. We saw this with when the Grateful Dead announced their tour, their final tour stop at Soldier Field here in Chicago. Before it was announced, it was just a very normal weekend night for the hotels. And then the moment that concert was announced, hotel rooms started filling up very, very quickly. Reservations began booking, and the hotels didn't know what it was. And if they didn't have event notifications set up in their e-commerce systems, they would have potentially not gotten the maximum amount of rate they could have for that event.